Thank you for the excellent food. The food, to be honest, is the only bad thing I have to talk about. I don't know my weight now, but I'm quite sure that after 1 week Bahrain, I will have 4 or 5 kilo more. At least I can see it in my face. I can see it there. With Salawi, in the morning we start with eating. Then before lunch we eat again, then we eat lunch, after lunch we eat again, and then we have dessert, and then we have another dessert, then we have dinner, and after dinner we go for a restaurant, for the cookies, and before we go to sleep we eat again, and then we go karak, and we are eating non-stop. If there are any questions, it would be now perfect if you can ask questions, and I try to answer them. If you have no questions, I can talk a little bit or show you some pictures. Don't be shy.
Say you were having a bad idea about the Arab countries, and after you come to Bahrain and you have it interesting and you find it very safe and you like it, you have the idea that you can repeat it again and come to Saudi Arabia?
Yes, why not? Saudi Arabia, how shall I say? When I was a young student, I had an offer to go to Saudi Arabia for teaching. I think I should have stayed for 2 years, and they offered a good salary. But I told them maybe half a year or something like this I would think about. But I think they wanted me to stay for 2 years to work as a teacher in an international school. And I said no, but somebody I knew went there, but that was 30 years ago. But what he told me about life in Saudi Arabia, I still have this somehow in my mind. And what I saw now in life is completely different. And to answer your questions, it would be fun to judge in Saudi Arabia one day. I guess it's quite a different culture again, but for sure interesting.
I want to know what he was going to teach, what he's going to teach in Saudi Arabia. I told him he will work as a teacher. Sure, he will teach Arabic.
The first what I will teach Salawi is to drive a car.
Because if you don't ask, I will ask. And Ali is one of the first breeders I know before in Bahrain. One of the first I know in Bahrain. Also, he one of the oldest breeders for English Budgies, winning a lot of shows in Bahrain.
Okay. He wasn't at the show.
Asking about the feathers is it for the kind of food, kind of supplements, or it is genetically appearing?
Interesting questions. I'm quite sure that giving too much supplements, too much artificial vitamins can cause feather cysts. But you have to see the difference. There are two different things with cysts. If cyst is genetic, stop immediately. That means if you have a bird with a cyst and his offsprings, first generation or second generation, have cysts again, you have to stop immediately. But if you have a bird that was suffering on French mold and afterwards he was growing a cyst, the chance that he produce French mold, that he produce a cyst again is very small. Then it's not hereditary.
Are you sure, Danny? It's possible to put a couple together while they are like 4 or 5 months?
It's possible, yeah, but I would not recommend. I was twice in Australia and I wanted to see wild budgies, but I have not seen one single wild budgie. But I met people that are very experienced with wild budgies, and they tell me in nature there are baby birds, not even 10 weeks old, that breed again. Before the first molt, they can start breeding and have. Sometimes I have eggs in my baby flight, and I don't throw them away. I just put them on the other pairs. I write down where they come from which flight, and sometimes they are fertile eggs in the baby flight. And the birds in there are maximum 12 weeks old, so that means they can be fertile very young. But normally I say hens must be 7, 8, 9 months old, and cocks 11, 12, 13, 14 months old, a little bit older. But it's possible, and look, a lady can be a perfect mother with 18, and another lady is with 40, still not, well, then it's too old, but maybe it doesn't have to be. Normally 8, 9 months is the normal age, but it can be earlier, but I would not force it.
Which you recommend to put them together and which you don't recommend to put them together? I asked him to mention, because it's wide.
Well, if you want me to talk about all the possibilities, it will take 2-3 hours. I mean, that's the interesting in Budgies. You can mix many things. At the moment, I try to mix melanistic spangle with Texas clear body, but so far, I don't know, they don't like each other. I don't get fertile eggs from those combinations, but in my imagination, it's very beautiful to have melanistic spangle with clear body. That, for me, would make a nice pair. The last few years, I paired dominant pied with spangle. Looks very nice. Or that also something with two dominant mutation, that it makes sense. I would not recommend to put two recessive genes together. Let's say dilute with recessive pied, because you mix it up. Or recessive pied with dominant pied. Doesn't make sense at all, for example.
They say about, he's asking about feeding the Budgies vegetables. It's better to be fresh or to be dried?
Well, fresh is of course much better. If you don't get fresh, the second option is to get them frozen. Frozen is also good. Dry is okay, but if you can get fresh vegetable, that's the best. But don't give too much. I give 2-3 times a week a small amount of vegetable. Some people, they feed a lot of vegetable, and like everything, a little bit salt is good. Too much salt, you can kill a bird. The same with human beings. I use them. That's more or less the only supplement that I'm using. I think many people are using antibiotics for anything without really knowing what they're doing. And I only use antibiotics normally when a bird is really sick. But to give probiotics, that means for life, to support the good bacteria, makes sense. I would recommend. But be careful with antibiotics. Sorry. Okay, other questions. I don't use it. I was using eggs. I feed a lot of eggs. Every week 20 to 30 eggs. My birds are loving eggs, and I'm 100% sure that it's natural power. My birds, they eat vegetarian, but so do I. I eat meat, but my wife and my daughters, they don't eat meat. And my birds, they don't get any meat at all. I know that there are people that feed meat or mealworms, exact. My birds don't like it, and it smells, and I'm not using it.
The question is, when you put males and females together in the same flights, they will choose each other in not in a certain way that you want. So in this case, what you will do if you want to breed?
Yeah. Well, I have 3 different flights. So if a cock with flackies is choosing a hen with flackies, I don't put them together. If you make a pair, never make twice the same fold, because you double up the fold.
عنده 3 مناطق مختلفين في flicking.
But most of the time, the birds are choosing good partners that connect, and then it's perfect. If you have a love pair and you let them breed, almost never a hen kills the chicks, or the father kills the chicks, or the father destroys the eggs. Something like this with love pairs almost never happens, and of course you got much better fertility like this.
Daniel, what about opaline? Yesterday you said the opaline with the opaline is very good combination, so it will improve the V shape. But I think the opaline is giving too much flecking, so that's a big problem for us.
Well, many people think like this. I don't have many flagged birds, but I used to work a lot with flagged birds, because when I was young I had no money, and the only good birds I could buy were flagged opalines. If you have a good bird that is flagged, bring it in. I would do it. The best is of course if you have clean birds, but flagged birds can be useful. For example, if you have a spangle with no spots and no marking, it's perfect to pair him with a flagged opaline, because a flagged opaline has too much melanin, and a spangle with poor markings and no spots has not enough melanin. That's what I told at the beginning. You have to get 16 youngsters from a village with a poor spangle. Out of this combination you will get spangle with perfect markings. You will also get spangles with flackies and no markings. That's the worst. But a certain small amount of the birds will have clean head and good markings. That's one thing that I saw on the show. I think on the whole show that I was judged, there were about 10 spangle, and there was one single cinnamon opaline spangle. And I love to work with cinnamon opaline spangle. In my experience, they are usually the best breeders, and I would recommend to start breeding with cinnamon opaline hens. Use opalines. There's no reason not to use them.
So I have also another question related. What do you think about cinnamons? It's something bad to breed with cinnamons?
No, there isn't. From my last 20 show winners, European show, WB show, all the birds were either cinnamons or split cinnamon. All 100% are cinnamons or split cinnamon. If you work with cinnamon, you will get the perfect feather. It's a fact.
قول طبعا ده كلام مش صح. اخر 10 الكسبانين يا اما كانوا سينامونز يا اما كانوا سبليت سينامونز. انتاج السينامونز بيديك ريش مظبوط، فانتجوا السينامونز مش حاجه عيب، الناس كتير قوي بتبعد عن السينامونز.
ياسر سؤال بالنسبه الى الاينو السينامون لما ندش على الاينو راح يحمل الطفرتين على كونهم 6 لين. ففي التوريث قدام اذا انت ما تبي اللاست وين.
What do you think about the combination of the two mutations, cinnamon with clear body and cinnamon with enos? It's useful or it's not recommended?
I try to avoid, especially cinnamon clear body. There are two factors that make less color. I think you should avoid. About cinnamon Eno, Reinhard Molketin from South Africa, he always said cinnamon Eno doesn't exist. He says you cannot see the difference. I'm not sure if it's true, but in general I try to avoid cinnamon in Enos and clear bodies.
Why to avoid cinnamon? If you want to say people that are bad with more, what about you?
Very nice.
I think in theory the color of I'm afraid that the color is less bright of Lutino in combination with cinnamon. But Reinhard Molketin, he was specialized in Lutino, and he always said cinnamon Lutino is not possible. It doesn't exist, or you cannot see the difference. I'm not sure.
At what time you start to prepare your birds for the show?
والخطوات
I'm a very bad example. I start selecting 2-3 days before the show. I'm not a good example. And what you have to know is that the behavior of the bird in the show cage is 99% genetically. So if the father was showing, the offsprings are showing as well. And if the parents were running around, the offsprings are running around as well. And the only things what I do is to take sometimes the bird in the show cage, wait 1-2 minutes, it is okay, I'll keep my memory is okay, and if he's running around, I might try the second time, and if he's still stressed, I don't show him.
Hi Daniel. You was telling us about the show beers and the breeders, the beers for breed. How you can tell us to be sure or to know how to recognize like the show beers in a breed budgie?
Well, the birds that I disqualified were the birds that were over the top. I put them behind, mainly because they could not see properly. I want to repeat.
I don't understand. Thank you.
Then you'll say that the birds I put it in the last levels in the show were very good quality birds, but having they are too much over the standards, and they having some mistakes that they cannot be a winners, like they cannot see well, or they have more excessive feathers. So these birds are very useful for breeding, but not useful for the showing. That's the difference. Okay. Is there any relation of the big size birds that their eyes can't see? Not about covered eyes. It's about his eyes not working anymore.
The Eno, if I have a bird that becomes black, it's 99 times it's Eno.
هو بيقول لو عنده طائر اصبح اعمى هو 99% هو اينو، لكن الطيور العاديه ما فيش اي ربط.
That's why all my Lutinos and Albinos, they're breeding at the bottom end of the show cages where they have less light of the breeding cages.
Because you think the light affects. They say about the hens that pick the feathers of the youngsters. Is it genetically, or it's something missing in the supplements or minerals?
I don't know. What do I do wrong? Always and I do. Hello? Okay. I think it's bad behavior. I don't think it's a missing. They do it once and then I take the babies away, and normally those hens are too early stimulated to start breeding again. So when you take the birds away, after 1 week, they often have their first egg again. I think it's mainly a question of over-hormonization.
It's the same also with the hens that probe the eggs.
Many of my hens, when they lay the first egg, not many, but sometimes they destroy the egg. And then I gave a plastic egg, and normally it stops. But there are a few hens that do it all the time. I have one of my best cocks at home is a cinnamon spangled raven cock. He always he make little holes he plays with the eggs, and I need to take away his fertile, but I cannot let him grow the eggs because he's destroying them. It's just a bad habit.
You say it's in your mind the percentage of the kind of seeds you are giving to the birds, like your mixture that you prefer, you know it? The composition of the seeds. You know the percentage of each thing? So can you advise? They say because we have different companies who offer the seed mixture under the names of very famous breeders like Joe Mannis mixture, Daniel Luetolf mixture, any name, and they are all with different composition and they don't know which is a good one. But I think they have to try and see the results with the birds.
Well, I mean, when you see certain mixtures, they just have 4 or 5 different seeds. And I think it's important that they have many different seeds. And if you want to see what for me is perfect feeding, you have to visit that young guy called Abbas. I was visiting him yesterday and I had many babies in my hand, and all the birds I had in my hand, they were not fat but strong. And all the babies, birds in the nest, the crops were full. And from what I could see, he makes the perfect feeding regime. Yeah, he will. What I want to say about his questions, there's no science proof what birds really need. But with daily nature, and they let me try for more than 1 year different seeds, and I could see what my birds mostly like. And now since 2 years I'm using these seed mixtures, and for me a good seed mixture is a mixture where nothing is left, where the birds eat everything.
I also added to them that it's not sure that the seed mixture for Daniel Luetolf in Switzerland is successful with him. It can be successful in another hot country. Maybe the weather change make the birds need something else. So you have to see the results by your eyes.
Sometimes I get visitors from people from anywhere in Europe, and they are saying your food is very good, 5 euros more expensive than the other one. That's why we don't buy it. And when they say this, I always know it's a waste of time to talk with them. They need probably 30 bags a year. 30 multiplied by 5 is 150 euros. And that's a very small amount. But for me it's clear that the seed mixture is the most important. The seed is 80–90% of what our birds are eating. That's why you must get the best possible.
If it's easy for you to participate as a breeder in Bahrain show with your birds, you will do it or no? And if you will do it, why?
I certainly won't do it.
Why?
Because the stress for the birds would be too much. I don't like showing at all. I love breeding, but I don't like showing. I know it's important, but for me the health of the birds is the most important. I would also not go in Europe to a show from the COM that takes 2 weeks or 10 days. I would never ever give my birds away like this. The longest show I do is the European show. You bring the birds Friday evening, and Sunday evening they're back home. That's the maximum. And if I would come to, I was often invited to go to UK to the Doncaster show, but I will never do that. I would recommend to try to organize an international, like the European show. On the European show we have around 15 countries from all over. I think it's similar here in Bahrain with inviting the Gulf states, Saudi, Iran, Kuwait, I don't know which countries, maybe Pakistan, I don't know, it's not so far. Something I would like to recommend you is to try 1 or 2 years making a show without spotting the birds. I was at the beginning also against it. In the meantime, most shows or many shows in Europe are without this spotting. And that takes a lot of stress away from the breeders and a lot of stress away from the birds. And whether, of course, it looks nice if the spots are fully there, but it's not a big issue if you still can see whether a bird has a nice mask and is fully spotted. Also, if you don't be spotted. The first thing I would is this year and last year, that's young, and birds from 2023 and 2004 and 2022, 21, they're all birds. So that the young class is university years, and everything older is old. And then you can also make that the wing issue is on the 1st of January and on the 1st of October. Like this, if everybody's doing the same, it's the like this, you will get more birds on the average. During I'm here, my phone is all the time ringing, and I already had a few messages from people from Europe. They are watching what we are doing here. Obviously, some people are putting posts on social media, and also from the show, I had a lot of very good feedbacks from people from Europe. They say, "Wow, the super birds that were winning," and Europe is taking eye of what you're doing, and they're very surprised, positively surprised about the birds you have. I'm telling already time that the future of the hobby is not in Europe. The future of the hobby is in the Arabic world, China, probably India. Sooner or later they are coming. Indonesia, it's a strong society, and I can see that here is the hobby very, very lively. Bahar showed me pictures of the show in Egypt. There were thousands of people. If you go to a Budgie show in Switzerland, if there are 20 people looking at the birds, that's a lot.
You don't know that you are famous? You are only famous here. Nowhere else. No. No. I know which one will take this one.
Is there a last question? So otherwise I think we should slowly come to an end. Yes? Sean?
There's a question from another. Also asking, will you finish
Well, first I will stop. I think as long as I'm healthy, I will breed birds for myself. Okay. And the birds, well, I was visiting a breeder who told me the 2024 birds are breeding, or 2023. It's already difficult. For me, it's very important that the birds breed 4, 5, probably 6 generation. I had a famous cock. Some of you saw that bird. He was always attacking me when he was in a breeding mood. He was breeding 8 seasons. He died last year now. But of course that's unusual. But I have quite a few, I don't know, 10 birds at home that are from 2019, 20, so 6, 7 years old, and they still breed well. But that's what should be. If you have a line of birds that only breed 1, 2 years, it's not good. Hence, they don't breed. I also have one hen from 19, a Texas Liberty, that still breeds, but it's very exceptional. Normally, I sell my hens after 2 years. They might breed 1 or 2 years more, but it's difficult. Hens don't breed as long as cocks. I like to breed with young hens. It's easier.
Do you use artificial insemination?
Very good. That was the other topic I wanted to talk about. To make it quick, no. And I would not recommend. I had some years ago an outstanding Spangle light-wing cock that was about 10 years ago. He was one of the best birds I ever bred, and he had a broken leg and couldn't sit. The leg was like this and he couldn't mate. If I would have known how it works with that bird, I would have tried, because he has a defect of, he has a broken leg as a baby. But in general, I think nature gives a certain limit. And with artificial insemination, you go over this limit. And if you have a bird that is not able to breed naturally for any reason, it's no good. What do you get from a bird that cannot breed naturally? you breed more birds that cannot breed naturally. And I'm 100% sure if you buy birds from a stud where most of the birds are bred naturally, the risk that the bird is not breeding naturally is big. So somehow they also lose the natural behavior. For me it's very important that the cock is active, that he's attacking the hen, and if a cock is just passive, doesn't show any interest, I rather won't use him. I want to see active birds, and if he's not able to fertilize a hen, something is wrong in my opinion. And the same with artificial insemination is with taking chicks away and using foster pairs. I think it's wrong. All my birds, also my very best ones showing us, they all feed their chicks naturally. Sometimes they are not able to feed them well, or so I take them away. But if they're doing it well, I let them feed the chicks. They are happy, and 2 months later they will make the nest round. I think using foster pairs is no good. It's also no good to use drop thing, hand feeding. If a bird, if you cannot save it, okay, try it. But to do it, I know breeders that every evening they very silly for me. They add food with the crop needle. That's for me absolutely no go.
But what's your experience about the long eggs and the eggs from the, what do you say, not double egg, the eggs
I forgot to mention that most of my hens, if I don't forget, are getting vitamin D3. And since I'm giving this, I have almost never ever any problem with eggshell problems. If the shell of the egg is not a little bit rough, normally in the last few days the chick are dying because there's not enough anymore inside. So the eggshell must be perfect. And if you give your birds vitamin D3 before and during laying, you will get more eggs and more eggs with perfect shell. I try not to touch my birds during the breeding season. The only time I touch them is if they have wet, we need to clean. Normally I cut the bird for the feathers, and I give the hens directly vitamin D3 in the beak. That's the only vitamin I'm using. Why vitamin D3? Here I saw that most breeders are breeding on the top of the roof, and there of course you got lots of light. In Europe most breeders are breeding in the cellar, and there's not enough sunlight coming in. Vitamin D3 is built from the sunlight. You should have enough here, but that's the reason why I'm not sure whether it's helpful here as well. But in Switzerland we don't have so much sun like you have here, and it's 100% helpful to do it in Switzerland.
Do you recommend something about vitamin D3, certain products? Maybe you use the one for the human use, for the baby use?
Just go to a pharmacy and ask for vitamin D3 for your children, and whatever you get. Don't use with alcohol. The one I use is based on oil. As far as I know, vitamin D3 cannot be overdosed.
Can you give them some tips about weaning the chicks? Take them from the parents.
That's a very delicate situation. What I recommend you absolutely is to give water in a little pot on the floor, because most babies have trouble, they're not able to get the water above, and that's very helpful. Since I give water on the floor, I lose much less babies. And I leave the babies as long as the parents are nice. When they start attacking them, I put them away. And in the baby flight, I always have a few older cocks that still are active but probably don't breed anymore, and they like feeding their young chicks. My young birds, they all love red millet and Japanese millet. That's also the reason why in both mixtures of mine there's a lot of Japanese millet, because this millet is very soft and easy to eat for baby birds.
Okay. He was using first the fresh boiled eggs, and he was doing very good for a long time, and his friends in the hobby make him afraid about this, and they say it makes some problems and diseases if you are using all the time the fresh eggs. So he switched to the dried, and he find the production dropped, and he's afraid to go back to the boiled eggs. Do you recommend?
Bad results after stopping fresh bird. Okay, but then the question is clear, the answer is clear. I'm 100% sure that fresh boiled eggs are extremely useful. Never, never. Just give a little bit food in the morning and don't give more than what they eat. So before I gave a lot of food, now I just soft food. I just give a little bit food, and when I have chicks I give more, but I try to produce a food that is eaten in the first few hours.
If it's like he can put the boiled eggs in the refrigerator, like to make it like cold, and it can be stayed for more hours. فكرة كويسة.
Good. I think we need to come to an end. I have a judging stick with my name here, and I would like to give it to a young breeder that is really active. I think I saw 2 young people here.
But if we have the son of Abbas. لسه في حد تاني من الصغيرين؟
Nobody.
No, we don't have.
Abbas, is your son really interested in birds?
Yeah.
So we can ask him. Oh. استنى. Okay. Oh. From the female. He said from the male, the male is blue and female is brown.
Is it possible to get blue birds from 2 green ones?
عارف الطيور الخضراء وعارف الطيور الزرقاء؟ ممكن الطيور الخضراء تنتج طائر ازرق؟ تعرف ولا ما تعرف؟ ما he don't know yet.
تعال ياسر ده واحد هني ده تعطيك
ياسر اسأله قول له.
He say, why in the last years European breeders are moving more to the new mutation
my goal.
is Enos, and I told him
To get fat.
it's there all the time.
I'm not fit anymore, I'm fat.
I also breed more funny colored birds, simply because, well, there are so many good cinnamon grays, and also here I see exactly the same birds in the same color. And I think it's boring to repeat always the same, and I like the challenge. And I don't know about the other birds breeding, but for me it's a challenge to produce, let's say, clearings, rainbows in the same quality as norms. Good, I would like to thank you for the audience, and something funny, my luggage is full with summer summer clothes. And I never thought that I have very cold fingers. That was one of my physiologies, that it's always warm in the Arabic country, even at night.
Yes, sir.
So thank you a lot for the evening, and I'm still around.
انا شفت ياسر واي نو انا شفت عند بعض المربيين بيحطوا المكسب مربع ومكسب مدور، فده بيأثر، المربع بيأثر على الطيور البجي.
They say some of the breeders, they saw at their place square perches and round perches. It's affecting the birds.
Both is good, but I saw in many cages here that the perches are too big. The birds like to. The birds like to go around. Most cages I saw, the perches look too big. And what I absolutely recommend you is to use natural branches. And you will see most birds are sitting most of the time of the natural branches that are smaller instead of the normal.
Oh, Jalil.